You know what the biggest reason is why most bettors lose? It's because they're guessing. And yeah, I used to be the same. I used to chase Lock Daddy 69's Twitter picks and sweat fourth quarter spreads like my life depended on it. But guess what? It didn't work. I only torched thousands of dollars. Then I had a light bulb moment. I realized this isn't betting, it's just burning money with extra steps. And the guys who actually win, they're not fans screaming at TVs. They're math nerds who have built a repeatable system. So I did just that. I built my very own system with OddsJam. And since then, I've hit hundreds of plus EV plays, pulled thousands in profit, and even gotten banned from some books. The crazy part is, you can do the same without being a pro or watching every game. Because if you follow the exact process I'm about to show you, you can realistically scale your profits to $100 a day using OddsJam. But hang on, I see that most of you still aren't subscribed to this channel yet. So if you're happy playing Proxy Daddy by funding your bookie's bratty daughter's romance literature degree, be my guest. For everyone else, hit subscribe. But before I jump into OddsJam, you've got to understand one thing about sports betting. Betting isn't about predicting the future. It's about shopping for the best deal. Kind of like topping up your gas. If one station sells it for $5 a gallon and the one across the street is $3, you don't just throw away extra money for no reason. You fill up at the cheaper pump. And that's exactly what OddsJam does. It basically finds the cheap gas in sports betting, which are essentially the books that are offering way better prices on the same exact bet. Because the reality is, every sportsbook uses different models and algorithms. Each one also reacts differently to public money. So one book can have a completely different odd than the other. But of course, as the bettor, you don't have unlimited time on your hands to scan each one of those books to find the best price. And that's where OddsJam comes in. Oh, and by the way, if you want to try out OddsJam yourself, I'll put a link to it down in the description below. Or you can scan this QR code right here if you're watching it on TV. So how does OddsJam line shop without wasting hours? It has a feature known as the Positive EV tool, and this is your moneymaker, which you'll use every single day. But before I get into that, I want you to think about how most people bet. They look at one or two sportsbooks apps on their phone and basically choose the better one. But to me, that's like buying a new TV from the first store you see. You might think you're getting a good deal, but you're actually overpaying for something you can get cheaper somewhere else. That's because value shows up when you can compare across multiple stores, not just one or two. And the same goes for betting. OddsJam automatically scans across 40 plus sportsbooks to find the ones that are mispricing the odds. And that mispriced line is called a positive expected value. But what does that actually mean? It's simple. So every bet has an expected value. If it's a negative EV, that means the book has the advantage. And if it's a positive EV, that means you do. Play enough of those. And over time, the numbers stack in your favor. And I'm not talking in hypotheticals here, because I've literally had bet slips come out exactly like this. And it's not just me. I've also seen many of my students go from losing $200 a week to building an actual side income just by using this system. Some have even quit their jobs by following a process that works. So just to put it into perspective, let me show you an example. Here we've got Baylor versus SMU. First quarter team total, SMU over 7.5. 7 different books are offering lines on this exact bet. Midnight Sportsbook has it at 2.75 in decimal odds, which is plus 175 in American odds. Now most other books have it closer to 2.20 to 2.53, but the average across the market is 2.53. So why does that matter? Because at 2.75, Midnight is basically saying there's only a 36.4% chance of this hitting. But the true market projection based on all the other books is around 40.5%. And that gap creates an 11.47% positive expected value. That's what OddsJam does for you. It helps you find bets where the sportsbook is accidentally giving you better odds than reality suggests. And when you stack these kinds of plays day after day, you tilt the edge away from the book and back toward yourself. That's how you stop being the ATM machine for sportsbooks and start pulling money from them. But just because the tool says it's positive EV doesn't actually mean it is. So how would we know? That's where filters come in. Think of them like bouncers at the club. They keep out all the sketchy bets, so only the good ones make it onto your dance floor. And here's how I set mine up. Rule number 1, minimum plus 3% EV. Why? Because the market moves fast and math isn't perfect. Having that little buffer keeps you from chasing edges that disappear the second you click place bet. Then, rule number 2, at least 4 sportsbooks offering lines. if only 1 or 2 books are posting odds, the average is basically fake news, because one rogue book can throw everything off. So the more books, the sharper the consensus. For example, OddsJam once flagged Trevor Lawrence over 32.5 passing attempts as plus 2.8% EV. Looked pretty promising at first, but only 3 books had lines posted and one was way off, so the whole calculation was shaky. That's why 4 or more books is my cutoff. And lastly, rule number 3, market width. That's basically the juice the sportsbook bakes into the line, meaning if the spread is tight, the line is sharp, and if the spread is wide, it's a sloppy market with not enough action yet, aka a fake edge. That's why OddsJam recommends filtering for 20 to 25 width, and I totally agree, because that's the sweet spot. So just to reiterate, plus 3% EV or better, 4 or more books, and market width between 20 to 25. Once you set those filters, you instantly wipe out 90% of the junk, and what's left are the bets worth your money. That's how you find daily positive EV plays like this day after day. But being a profitable bettor involves much more than finding good plays. It's also learning how to manage your bankroll correctly. I've seen it too many times before. Casual bettors making this one simple mistake that ruins the entire game. And what is it they do? They lock up their entire bankroll on games that don't start for a week, thinking it's the smart thing to do. But just think about it for a second. If you're betting 1% per play and you fire off 100 bets that all settle days later, you've done absolutely nothing but put your bankroll in the freezer. Because now you can't place new bets, can't adjust if variance smacks you. And you're stuck staring at pending tickets like a kid waiting for Christmas morning. So here's what I do. I keep most of your action within 24 to 48 hours of game time. Occasionally, I'll grab a line a week out if the value's insane, but that's the exception. This way, your money keeps cycling and you're not sitting there with a locked up bankroll collecting dust. So let's say you're firing off 2 to 3 bets a day. How do you stay on top of your bankroll and make sure everything's in check? You need a bet tracker. Now, you can track bets however you want. Yeah, you can play around with Google Sheets if you like doing things manually, but OddsJam's built-in tracker does it all automatically, meaning every bet you place gets logged and you get instant breakdowns of your daily profit, weekly profit, and long-term performance. Just take a look at my past dashboard. I've made $1,076 in profit, but it wasn't smooth sailing. That Friday, I was down $277, but the day before that, I was up $462, and that's called variance. You'll have swings every now and then, but if you're sticking to plus EV bets, your graph trends upward over time. Besides profit and performance, the tracker also shows some advanced stats like profit margin per wager, profit by sportsbook, sport, and league, closing line value, which is basically a scorecard that shows how often you beat the market before the line moves. And beating the closing line is the #1 indicator you're actually a sharp bettor. Not only that, you can also track your actual profit versus expected profit. And just to be real with you, my actual profits right now are a little ahead of my expected value, so I've been lucky. My actual profit was $1,233, but my expected profit was supposed to be around $893. But that's why tracking is crucial. Long term, the math always drags you back to EV, and the tracker keeps you honest so you don't fool yourself with short-term luck. And if you want to see how other people are doing with OddsJam, then feel free to join our private community. Everyone who signs up to OddsJam through my link gets to join the community for free. Inside, we share our bet trackers, compare results, and help each other stay consistent. One of our members even shared their impressive profits for September 2024. So, if you're interested in joining 86 plus other sports bettors who are absolutely kicking butt, then click the link in the description to learn more, or scan the QR code up on the screen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is all of this guaranteed to work? Well, nothing in life is 100% guaranteed, but what is guaranteed is math. If you consistently place positive EV bets, the law of large numbers kicks in and you profit long term. Like for instance, you start with a $5,000 bankroll. You stick to 1% bet sizing, take about 5 bets a day, and only touch plays with at least a 3% edge. After a year, you're up around $3,000, and by year 6, you're pulling in over $10,000 a month. And in 10 years, your bankroll should cross into 7 figures. Of course, you'll still have losing days or even losing weeks, but over hundreds of bets, the math wins. And if you're still skeptical of whether this OddsJam system works, I actually ran a 7-day challenge back in August, starting from a clean slate. I documented the whole process, including the highs and the lows, so if you want to see how that played out in real time, I'll put that video up on screen now.